Hi guys. So I'm actually doing footage for another video that I have coming out for a hair product, and I'm just trying to get this part of my hair to lay because for some reason it has a tendency to be more coily, and so it turns more puffy instead of hanging like this over here. But if you can, try to not let my hair distract you. I just wanted to come with a little quick, I was going to say tidbit, but we'll say food for thought. So, a lot of times when we go through things and it seems like it's just too much, it's just like one thing after the other. And we're just like, God, why is all this happening to me? I get emails from Christianity.com, and they just give you, stories, um, scripture passages, and it just helps you to bring things into perspective about certain situations that you might be going through. So, you can apply it to your life, and it's just kind of helpful because you realize that you're not alone in what you're going through, and there are other people that are going through the same thing that you're going through. So, this particular one that came up today was, why did Jesus pray, let this cup pass from me? It reads, God gave his son the grace of enough strength to carry his cross. And our God will give us enough strength. For the times he doesn't lift our burdens, but requires us to carry them as well. I love that because, again, a lot of times we just want God to lift our burdens away, and we miss what he can really. I mean, that's great that he can lift them away, and he can, but we miss the process of developing our faith. We miss the process of gaining endurance to go through the different trials that we will encounter throughout this Christian journey, because we don't just face one obstacle, there will be several, but each one that we face, as we are able to go through it, as God is gracing us enough strength to go through it, we develop more trust in him, in that, God, you brought me through that situation. I'm just going to trust you to bring me through this situation. And a lot of times I know that situation at that time seemed like it was like so overwhelming, but then another situation comes and it just seems even more overwhelming. And so you might think, well, yeah, God was able to bring me through that one, but this situation right here, it's like a whole nother ball game. But that's just where the trust is developing, because you really have no other choice but to trust in the one that's already proved that he can fix the situation. So why would you want to branch out on your own and try to fix it yourself, but just trust in God? My daughter was going through a particular situation on last week, and it just seemed like one thing after the other is like a domino effect. And so I was like trying to, be considerate, for one, of what she was going through, and not just, throw a Bible verse at her. Cause, a lot of times us Christians are good for that. It's like, yes, throwing Bible verses at people, I won't say throwing, but encouraging people with Bible verses is good. But sometimes you have to put yourself in their position and just really know that, hey, this situation is overwhelming. My daughter is a single mother with 3 girls. Okay, that in itself is a task in itself. But yeah, she's a single mother of 3 girls. And so I had to, like, before I just threw something out there at her, I had to let her know that, hey, I don't fully understand because, I didn't have 3 girls. I was a single parent as well when I had my children. So, but I had help. I mean, and she has help too. But what I'm saying is, like, with 2 kids and you have a boy and a girl, which is what I had, to me, it seems just a little bit different. And if you knew her daughters, you'd probably be like, oh yeah, I can see what she's going through. I mean, and not just her. I think that's just with any, we've got what, 5-year-old, 8-year-old, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think she's 8, and then a 10. Or is she 11? I don't know. But anyway, just the 3 girls in the house alone is something that, and just wait till they become teenagers. That's a whole nother ball game. But the good thing about that is, as she's going through different things right now, by the time they become teenagers, she would have already been developing this trust and this faith in God, in knowing that, hey, He has continued to bring me through. I haven't broke. I know there's a lot of times that she just says, God, just take me now. If you're ready for me to come home, just take me now. She says stuff like that. She says it jokingly, but yeah, and I know she don't just mean she wants to just go out and be killed or kill herself. That's not what she's saying. But it's just like things just become so much that she's thinking, I don't know how much more of this I can take. But it is in that moment that God is like, you can, because I'm going to give you enough strength to get you through it so you can carry your cross. We all have to carry our cross in this life, and a lot of the crosses that we all have to carry are situations that we ourselves have brought on ourselves. But thank God for His grace and mercy that He doesn't just throw us away when we do things that cause repercussions, but He continues to extend a hand to us and help us. So that's the good thing about all of this is, hey, I'm just glad God didn't just throw me out to wash. Yeah, I may have to endure this cross. I have to remember I brought this on myself, and a lot of things we're not even bringing on ourselves, but it's just that God has graced us to go through different things because there's always a greater purpose than what we can just see for ourselves. We don't know how God is working behind the scenes for those that may be watching, how it's going to be helpful to them or whatever. So our task is really to just be obedient and just to continue to trust God and know that He only wants the best for us. And yes, although we may go through some stuff, He's right there all the time to go through those things with us. So that being said, let me just read a little bit of this. I don't want to make this too long, but I just wanted to share some encouraging word to someone out there today that may feel like, God, this is too much. Our God graciously included a great many directions for us that He gave us through His own example. Now that's even awesome. Like, God is not just saying this stuff. His Son went through the same things that we will go through. He was abandoned. He was alone when He was in Gethsemane. He had His disciples told Him, just sit here, stay here and pray with me. They would sleep. How many times you told your friends, to have your back and they don't have your back. So that's relatable. I mean, like, God can relate to us. We don't have a Father that, is not sympathetic in what we are going through. From the Sabbath rest to taking up His cross of sacrifice, our God has shown us how to live through example. Jesus' moments in the Garden of Gethsemane show us the intimate, emotional, and spiritual process. The intimate, emotional, and spiritual process. There is an intimate, there is an emotional, and there is a spiritual process in the trials that we will go through. Jesus went through as he wrestled and took up the deepest form of suffering anyone has ever endured. So a lot of things that we go through, when I always say, this is nothing compared to what my Lord and Savior went through for me when he was crucified on the cross. And in that most difficult time, he showed us things we can do too. Like in that time of intense suffering that Jesus was going through, he was still, showing us how to conduct ourselves in certain situations, such as something that was so difficult, so much intense suffering, so overwhelming. Sometimes as Christians, we think that having faith means we don't feel the reality of the circumstances we are going through. I love that. Sometimes as Christians, we think that having faith means we don't feel the reality of the circumstances, as if having a heavenly perspective equates to not seeing or feeling things in the moment, because we are so fixed on heaven that earthly matters don't affect us. Well, earthly matters do affect us. So we need to just not be so high and righteous to the fact that we are just sweeping over the fact that, hey, I'm human and this situation is really, taking its toll on me. And it's okay. It's okay. Yes, we are Christians, but you don't have to feel like you're Superwoman, because you can't do it all on your own. You got to get to a breaking point, so you can have God come in and help you. When we are weak, that's when he is strong. But Jesus shows us a different example. Jesus sweat blood as he experienced the heavy reality leading up to his crucifixion. Hebrew tells us that he despised the shame of the cross and took it up with joy. But in the moments leading up to that mental shift where he was able to find joy for the end result, he was stressed, excessively burdened. So yes, after it was all said and done, it was great. But before that, while he was enduring it, he was excessively burdened. That means when we are called to bear our crosses, God does not have some lofty expectation that we will carry them like toothpicks, light as a feather burdens. He doesn't expect that we won't sweat or struggle, because he knows what it is like to take up his cross. And he wants us to know that he understands. This comforts me greatly, and it should comfort you as well. God is not expecting you to be super woman, super man. He's like, I'm here for you. I can help you. Quit trying to do this on your own. And as I'm talking to you, I had sent that screenshot of what I'm sharing with you now to my daughter, and I see her responding, and my daughter's so silly. I can only imagine what she's saying, but I know she said something. Here, let's just see. Let me see if I can go to it without messing this up. I may mess up, but I'll come back on. Okay, just as suspected. She said, I don't want it. In other words, she don't want to have to go through it. And of course, like a lot of us, we don't want to have to go through the stuff. But then she said, I'm free, no more burdens. So sometimes we don't realize how easy it is to lose our grasp on the realities we face while holding on to heaven's hope until we see it unpacked before us. And this just goes into a woman, sharing her story. But I'm going to go ahead and kind of wrap this up because I'm already up to more minutes than I want to be, and I don't want to make this too long because I don't want, anyone to, lose interest in what I'm trying to say, because I want someone to be helped by this word. So if Jesus could cry, couldn't we also? Isn't the reality of death sad, even if heaven holds our loved ones? Isn't the reality of death sad? So we can't, I know when my grandmother died, I was close to my grandmother, And I would always tell her, when you die, or if you die, I don't want to live, because I was just that close to my grandmother. But, that was younger when I said that. And as I grew older, I realized, okay, this death is a part of life. I'm saying, it sounds like I'm saying, if she dies, then I don't have the capacity to keep living or whatever. But wasn't living for my grandmother. I was living for Jesus, and Jesus had me here for a purpose. So now it's like, it wasn't that I didn't grieve for her, but I was kind of joyful that she had crossed on over to a life eternally with Jesus, whereas I'm still here, making that journey. And so, yes, I grieved for her, and it was okay to shed a tear, some tears. That's natural, because we're, in human bodies, and we're on this earth. So don't want anyone to think that, just because you're a Christian and a loved one dies, that you shouldn't act like it doesn't faze you, or say, suck it up, buttercup. We all got to die one day, and they're in heaven now. And why is that picking up a blue? Oh, because of this, I guess. Sorry. It's showing a blue circle. Anyway. This almost sounds like me. When I continue with this here, it says, some years later, I was deeply grieved over my grandmother's passing. The events surrounding her death pierced my heart, and it was very deeply grievous. I started to cry on the phone with a friend, not uncontrollably, but moved with emotion. She was, at the time, my dearest friend and a believer. Sometimes that's why it's good to read these stories, because I can relate to that, because I myself lost my grandmother, who I was really close to. So these stories, just kind of help to drive home the point, and just, make it more applicable for you to, understand and relate. My daughter's calling. Let me see what she wants, guys. Okay. I'm just going to end this right now, because my daughter is being extra right now. Basically, what I wanted you to get from this, and I think the point has been made, that we will go through things, but just know that God will be with us. And even though sometimes it just feels like, when, I don't know if I can, go any further. Believe me, you can, if you just trust God. God will help you through. If you can just look back over your life, think of times if you've said that, I don't know if I can do this, I don't know if I can do this, I don't know if I can keep doing this, whatever, and look where you're at today. Who do you think helped you through that? If you're trusting in God, it is only God. If you're not trusting in God, it's because he still is beckoning you to come to him. And even though you don't feel like, you took that situation to God, God still has a plan and purpose for your life. And he knows that, the longer he's tugging at you, that you will eventually come to him. So it's just by his mercy that he is just continuing to just not let you fall by the wayside, but he's continuing to hold you up, even though you may not acknowledge it or admit it. But it is God just showing grace and mercy. And then hopefully your eyes will be enlightened to the fact that, God, you've been there all along. You've been carrying me through every situation. And I just want to now recognize that and acknowledge that, and be a testimony, allow that testimony to be a testimony to others, to help and encourage and build them up. So just know that even though we may carry our cross, God is with us with just enough grace to carry us through. Thanks for watching.